Alright, we're going to be starting the pen tutorial now. The purpose of this tutorial is going to be to teach you how to use probably the most important tool in Illustrator, the pen tool. Shortcut is P, and we put together this kind of a simple pack of shapes that we're going to start by just showing simply how to trace. Then we'll get into something a little bit more complicated. This is basically just to show you the absolute basics about how to use it. So we'll start with the simplest here, and we're going to go to the square. You'll notice that I'm scrolling around. If you watch my previous tutorial, you'll know that I'm doing this just by holding on the space bar, and then it turns my mouse pointer to the hand, and then I can drag it to wherever I want. Now the most basic way of doing this is just going to be to click in all the corners of the square, and then click on the last point in order to get this circle. You'll notice that the problem with this is that our lines are not perfectly straight, and it's not a perfect square. There's a couple of ways that we can change this. We're going to go to our selection tool, or V, click on this, and then press the delete key to delete it, or edit cut, and then or clear. You could use the rectangle tool, or M, and just click and drag in a square like that. Again, we're going to go ahead and clear out that. But since this is a pen tutorial, we're going to be learning how to use a pen. So start off with, you put in your first point. Then after you put in your first point, you can hold down Shift and click over on the other side of the square, and you'll see how this locks this to a square. So I'm going to hit Control Z to go back a step and see how we still have the point there. I'm going to hold down Shift and click in a different spot, and you see how it locks it to a straight line. I can again come down and click way over here and add my point, and it's going to lock it. Again, I can do the same thing here, and then I can click here. Problem with this is that this line is now not parallel. There's two ways we can try to fix that. One way is to zoom in, grab this, hold down Shift while dragging it, and try to drag it over a little bit. And that may get it more straight. It's still going to be slightly off. The other way, I'm going to go ahead and delete this again, is go up to the View, and I'm going to turn on what is called Smart Guides. Or the shortcut of Shift or Control U. So what this does is you'll see that it's following different points and paths. So if I hovered over the anchor point on the previous layer, I'm actually locking the pen tool to this path, and you'll see how you can actually go off of it and it'll still kind of snap to the same plane. So we can click on that anchor, hold down Shift, come over here, and click here, hold down Shift, come here. And you'll notice that if I do it here, it's locking it to the point on top. So the thing about this is that this point and this point are perfectly parallel. Now you can just combine it, and that is a completely perfect square. Honestly, for our purposes, I'm just trying to show you how to do this. The whole point of this is going to be able to do this without the smart guides on, because you're rarely, if ever, going to have anything perfect. So that's probably the most basic shape you could do, other than, say, like triangle, like that. One last point. Now we're going to do this circle. We're going to do this circle a little bit more complicated. You were going to click on just the top of the circle, and while holding it down, we're going to drag to get our adjustment bars. Now I'm actually going to be attempting to drag this adjustment bar to this point on the circle, because that's about where the adjustment bar line should go. I'm going to release it, then I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to click and hold while holding down Shift and drag it over. And do the same thing over here. We're going to remove the center of this so it's easier to see. And we're just going to adjust it a little bit. In order to adjust these adjustment bars like I am, I'm grabbing my direct selection tool, or A. In order to grab the bars, I'm holding down Shift and I'm dragging them. You'll see that we basically have a almost perfect circle with just 2 bars. Now you could make this much more complicated. I'm going to go ahead and delete that by adding multiple points into it. And while we can get it closer on the first path without adjusting it as much, you're going to have a lot harder time getting this to be a perfect circle and keeping it as accurate. The reason for this is each point that you add to a line increases the complexity. So here, let's say I wanted, I think this part of the line is bad. Well, I'm going to have to adjust this line, and I also think that this one's bad, so I'm going to adjust this one. And this point isn't far enough out, so let's pull it out. And that made this part look bad. It's adding, you know, twice as many adjustment bars to mess with. So it could potentially take you longer. It's going to make it harder to keep lines parallel. Because let's say our objective here is to draw something internally. So now we have to follow these lines inside. And we have, in order to keep everything straight and pretty much parallel, you kind of have to try to keep the adjustment bars parallel to each other. And what happens when you do that is that you end up having to adjust twice as many adjustment bars. So now I have to adjust all of these bars. And then, you know, it's whereas if I did it the other way, where let's say I did it this way, or I did it like this, I'm not trying to get this perfect right now, just kind of close. Now we have 2 points to work with. So in order to get these parallel, I have to click here and drag it to about the same spot, and then click here and drag it to about the same spot. And then select them, move it a little bit over so these lines line up. They're about the same diameter, and I need to do the same for this one. And now in order to get the lines relatively close to each other, and have them parallel, I only have 2 points to work with rather than 4. So it's going to be much less complicated in order to, do it. Another way you can do this if you're kind of being lazy is to find the middle of it, click, hold down Control and Shift, and drag it out with the ellipses tool, and then just pull it on top. Problem with doing it this way is you're not very often going to be able to have a perfect circle to work with. In fact, I can barely remember any time. And then another thing that you can do is edit, copy, edit, paste in front, or Control F. This is actually a really good and paste in back commands to learn. We paste in front, we're actually, if I hold down Control and Shift and drag, you'll see that we actually pasted an exact copy of those 2 lines. So I can then hold down Control and Shift and grab one of the adjustment bars in the corner and scale it down. It can actually come in very handy. So that is one thing you should probably keep in mind, is paste in front and paste in back. And then the object here is to be able to use as few points as possible to do these lines. So you can do just about all of these lines with just 2 points up on top here. Another good tip to remember is when you're doing something like that, try to keep your adjustment bars on the same side. So like right here, you see how I have the adjustment bars both on this handle? I could have done this. I could have done this over here and drawn the adjustment bar here. And it would work, but it's harder to line up. You see how you've got both of them over here? And so if I click on this one right here, I can only adjust this one. So something to keep in mind. Another thing you should probably be aware of when you're doing something like this is that you almost always want the show handles from multiple selected anchor points. You want this selected, or hide handles from multiple selected anchor points. I honestly don't know why they have that. I always have the show one, because then I can scroll over the top of multiple points and I can see the handles from both of them. Here's another one. You can do this one in 2 different ways. You can click here and draw your points. I'm not trying to get this exact, but I'm just trying to get it close, because you can always come back later and adjust it. You can do it that way, and this way you're using 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Or we're going to go ahead and delete those points out. You can do it like this. This is going to be more complicated, but you can do it with only 2 points. It's going to require a little bit more adjusting, but it's 100% possible. I'm hitting A almost always in order to go back to the direct selection tool in order to adjust my adjustment bars after I'm done placing them. And you can see that we've got this line done with only 2 adjuster points rather than 1, 2, 3, 4 points. So we minimized it. You can do the same thing here. This one you could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or you could do 1, 2, 3 points. You can do, this one with 2 points, and you can do this one with 4 points. So what you really want to do here is minimize the number of points used. So I'm going to just go ahead and close this because we're not. I'm not going to use it anymore. I'll link with the video that file so that you can open it up and try doing that yourself. It's a good exercise to do just to get used to it. But now I'm going to just show how to use the pen tool by doing. We're going to be creating a new vector now. Okay, we're going to start work on the actual image we're going to be doing with this. So go to File and New. I'm going to call this Tutorial. If I can type. Alright, we're going to leave the settings on just CMYK, high, and default. Click OK. Go ahead and place an image. We'll be doing this guy right here. Actually, no, let's do a different one. I'm going to do this one. Zoom out with Control and minus or Alt and scroll. Go to our direct selection tool and kind of line it up right here. Then I'm going to grab our artboard tool and click on it. And grab a corner and drag it over. It doesn't need to be perfect. I'm actually just going to fill up the character with the artboard. Oh, we got 2 artboards. Grab the direct selection tool to unselect that, and you can see that our artboard is just around the character now. We'll zoom out a little bit, make 2 new layers. I'm going to lock this layer here. We'll rename this to Original Art. We'll make layer 2 here into a white box, and then this will be our inks layer. I'm going to leave the color for our lines on green here. The rest of the stuff we're not going to use. Click OK. We're going to lock this layer for now and go to our white box layer. I'm going to zoom out a bit. I'm going to come over to my rectangle tool here, or I could hit M, and I'm going to draw a white box over the top of the whole character. We'll grab our stroke and just make that clear. Then we're going to change the opacity down to, I don't know, like a 30. We'll make it a 50. And we'll lock that layer. The reason I do this is if we go to our inks layer, and I'm just going to quickly throw in a line here without, really showing what I'm doing. Make it black. If we hide this layer, you can see that it's kind of hard to see where this line is. Not really hard, you can tell, but with the white layer on it, it's really easy to see what you have done. So that's the main reason I do it. I also find it a little easier to follow the lines because, if you look really closely at this, you can see that this is multiple colors. If you're fading it out, it makes it easier to think of as everything as blocks of color. So that's why. We'll go ahead and delete this line, and then we're just going to show you how to use the pen tool, since that's what this tutorial is all about. Alright, so, we just went over the defaults earlier, so let's do a simple line. So we'll do here down to here. Click on a point, click, hold, and drag the adjustment bar to where you want it. Hold down Alt, and then drag the other adjustment bar to where you think it should go. Release the Alt and your mouse pointer, or the mouse button. Click in your next point, move your mouse pointer over the top of this one and click in order to merge those together. We're going to swap the fills and the strokes so you can see. Then we're going to zoom in a little bit here. And you'll see that this curve's a little off. So to fix that, we'll click on our direct selection tool, click on this point, and then we can grab this adjustment bar and play with it a little bit. I'll probably want this down a little more. And then we can click on the swap fill and stroke or Shift X. I use Shift X all the time when I'm working on this. We can do this next one. I'll zoom out just a little bit. We'll show you a different way of doing basically the same line. So you can click, 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 and then make this into one solid shape. Grab our direct selection tool and select this point here. Then click the Convert Anchor Points to Smooth up on top here. That'll add our two adjustment bars. We'll swap the fill and the stroke. We'll grab this bar and move it to the bottom. So we have this adjustment bar where we want it. Hold down Alt and click on the other one and move it to where we want it. And then we can swap it again, and we have this line done. You can also adjust where the point is by clicking on it and then dragging it to where you want it. So, another way you can do this is basically the same way, except for we're going to go to. I'm going to close this and show you how I got it. Click on this. You see this Convert Anchor Point tool, or Shift C. We're going to go ahead and select that. We're going to click and drag, click on that point, drag the adjustment bar to where we want it, hold down Alt. Actually, no, with this one, you've got to release it, grab your arrow tool, Shift X to swap it, and then hold down Alt to just adjust one side. So that's basically how I would do. That's another way you can do that. You'll see that this tip here is a little thicker down at the bottom than the other one, so we probably want to thin it up just a hair. We're trying to make these lines to be relatively close to the same thickness and all of that, just to keep it nice and simple. Okay. Grab our ellipse tool here. Click and drag in the eyeball. We'll swap the colors here. We'll grab our direct selection tool and we'll zoom in a little. If you move your direct selection tool to the corner of this point, you see how you get this different arrow. If you click, hold, and drag, it's the rotate symbol. So you can rotate it, and then you can adjust it to the right size. So, and we can hit Shift X to swap it again. And then since this is about the right shape and size, we can copy it and paste it in, or edit, copy, then edit, paste. You should know Control C and Control V. Move it to the middle, where this white dot is, to about where you think the middle is. Grab a corner, rotate it in, and you've got the other eyeball. Then we can go through and add in all the other lines. One thing I should mention is when I'm putting in all these lines, I'm attempting to keep the adjustment bars on a tip on the same point. So what I mean by that is, see how we have the adjustment bar on both on this side? Whereas if I undo this, go back a step here, and grab my pen tool, and select this, I could put my adjustment bar on the other side here. So now if we select everything, you see I have the adjustment bar here and the adjustment bar here. The reason I try not to do this is because it's easier to get this curve to follow the same curve if the adjustment bar is on the same side. If we go back here and we select this, I can see, basically about how long the bar is. And now this curve is the same on both sides. Whereas if we had it over here, it'd take a little bit more playing around. So that's one thing to think about while doing stuff like this. So I'll click on a point, drag in where I want it. Once I get the one side where I like it, I'll hold down Alt and drag it over to the other side and guess at it. Click it in, and if I guessed right, I don't even have to adjust the other side. Let's say I guess wrong, like let's say I put it here and click it in and I don't like it. I'll come up to my direct selection tool or A, click on the point, drag it to where I want it, and just keep going through. One thing I am going to emphasize is learn the shortcuts. When I'm doing this, I'll hit P for the pen, and then when I'm done adjusting it, or if I want to adjust something partway through, I'll hit A for the arrow tool, or V for the direct selection tool, or Shift C for the convert anchor point tool. You should be trying to learn all the shortcuts, or L for the circle tool, or M for the square tool. So you kind of want to learn all the different options in here. Hide that. We'll see that this is basically one big black stroke. So we can do this is just one big chunk. One thing I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to draw everything, this line as one chunk rather than drawing this line and also drawing this line at the same time. So if I click here, click on here, and drag in where I think the adjustment bar should be, drag this up like this. One thing about putting both adjustment bars on this side is you get a nice smooth point into here. What if you want this end fatter though? So, here is a line, it's okay, but it's not great. I mean, it's not following this curve very well, and we want to keep the number of points down to a minimum. So I'm going to show you how you should probably do this line. You should probably start from this side. So I'm going to grab my pen tool and click here. And I'm going to click and drag in the curve where I think it should go on this side. And then I'll click on here to remove the other adjustment bar, put in the point, click and hold down Alt and drag in the other adjustment bar, and then click here. Then I'm going to bring this adjustment bar to where I think it should be. Probably a little bit thinner like that. And you see how we have basically the same curve except for, we have all these points here. Now what we can do here is we can grab our direct selection tool and click in here and pull in this adjustment bar here. Grab our direct selection tool and pull this bar up like this, or even just remove it. Move it about to the center. And you see how we get this tip thinner. We still have the same amount of points, but we have one extra adjustment bar here and here. And the main curve is this one here. So that allows us to thicken up the tip while still keeping the same basic curve. So you got to kind of think about where your bars should actually be. I mean, another thing you could probably do is you could keep this whole thing and add a point here and adjust it, but then you're making it more complicated. So you just want to try to keep everything as simple as possible. Here, we got this here. Drag it in, add in the second point. Click and hold down Alt and move that in because that's about where that other adjustment bar is. Put in our point. I'm going to Shift Exit to bring it across. See that it's a little thinner, so we can bring that there. Shift Exit again, and we got that point in. Okay. Let's